Okay, so very good afternoon, everybody. Today, probably the final class on the Ministry of Utmost Happiness we will have, and we will quickly overview major themes, symbols, and motives in this novel. So far, we have seen the things like the characters. We have tried to overview different characters. We have seen that this novel is a very wide novel, and here there is this lot many things which we have seen that to even portray, to even just list down the characters and to connect lot many story also is very difficult. Though we have done all these things here on this board as well as on this board, still we think that there are couple of characters which are still out of this range. Or and each and every character has its own story. So even perhaps that story also is out of our range where that character misses out. I think in this list, if you see here, so we have added a couple of characters here. For example, this Gulrez. Gulrez was not earlier. Gulka or Commander Gulrez is added here. And here one taxi driver is added. Driver Malik, Mumtaz Malik, that also is added. So they also come with their own story. They also, we have discussed the story yesterday about Gulrez in context of Sultan the Rooster. Sultan the Rooster in that context, and Gulrez is the name which Musa is having as a commander Gulrez. So when there is an encounter and Gulrez is killed, many people thought that Musa is killed in that encounter because Commander Gulrez is killed, but Commander Gulrez was not dead. That was the name acquired by Musa. So in that way, it's a very interesting novel. As such, it gives us something quite interesting to see, and it also gives us this idea that what can be done through novel, what can be done through novel, how that complexity can be created through novel, that also it comes there. Today in the final class, we want to see themes and symbols. So we are going to see about these themes, major themes here, the nature of the paradise. From there onwards, we will see. And we will ask you all to say something about the themes from the study material that we have shared, and then we will discuss the brief part of that thing, and then we will see symbols and motives which are there in this novel also. Okay? So let me share one screen here. Okay. Okay, so I'm sharing a screen which will have the title of for this thematic study that we are planning to do here, and these are the themes which we want to see. One by one, we will try to study this very quickly. Some of the themes may have similar examples also coming from the novel. So as of now, things are very clear in your mind. As of now, what is the story, and by and large, the major characters are very clear in our mind. And in keeping those things in mind, we try to go through the thematic study. Okay, so first of all, who will be there? First, Kishan, is the nature of paradise. Okay.
So first theme is the nature of paradise. So at it is title suggests happiness is a central concern in Roy's novel. More specifically, the Ministry of Utmost Happiness deal heavily with where happiness can be found and what is advantage of. So another way of putting this is that the novel involves the search for paradise, a place of perfect pleasure and contentment in the Abrahamic religions. That the novel's major characters practice or grow up in. So that is not to say that the Ministry of Utmost Happiness convenes of happiness, only in terms of spiritual reliance or afterlife. So in fact, the social and political movements Roy depicts how the novel are in some sense an attempt to create paradise on earth. At the demonstration in Jantar Mantar, for instance, a group of documentary filmmakers are asked protesters to speak the press. Another world is possible in the whatever language they spoke. So the implication being not only that a fair and more peaceful world is within range, but that in that world people from all different backgrounds will exist harmoniously side by side.
Okay, so we see here that nature of paradise. Obviously, we think of paradise because there is Jannat, Jannat guest house, and Jannat funeral services. And graveyard is the setting, the beginning of the novel and the ending of the novel is the graveyard. And in between also we are taken so many times to this graveyard. And the graveyard's name is Jannat. So it is very, very much paradoxical to see that graveyard and Jannat, how people see that. The nature of the paradise obviously is very interesting to see that if we do not die, uh, graveyard symbolizes death, then Jannat is not possible. Death is necessary for Jannat, for paradise. One has to die. And dying is a painful process. It's quite painful as such there. There are lots of suffering in death. So even if very, very paradoxically, we know that those people who think and talk a lot about Jannat and heaven, they are not ready to die. They still want to live. So if people are really thinking about the reality of heaven or Swarg or Jannat, paradise in that form, the next moment they will die because they know that they are good human beings because they have done good work in terms of religion. And then they will say that, well, I am going to surely go to Jannat. So let me kill myself and let me go to that. But that is not happening there, going there. That is the paradox, the graveyard and the idea of Jannat. So what is that nature of paradise? Is that we have to make our own Jannat here. We have to make our own paradise here. And it is not in terms of spirituality or in religious terms. It is very much in terms of secular life also. And that is why it says that it is very important to see that people conceive their happiness not only in terms of spiritual realm and afterlife, not only that. In fact, the social and political movements Arundhati Roy depicts throughout the novel are in some sense an attempt to create paradise on earth, creating paradise on earth. At the demonstrations in Jantar Mantar, for instance, a group of documentary filmmakers asked protesters to speak the phrase, inverted commas, another world is possible, means in whatever language they spoke. The implications being not only that a fairer and more peaceful world is within reach, but that in that world, people from all different backgrounds will exist harmoniously side by side. So this now again, see, there is another new story coming up. We have seen this story, but this story was not there. What is that instance that is discussed here? That at Jantar Mantar there were some group of young people who were doing film, making videos, and they have one theme in their mind, and that was that they were asking to everybody who came there, who came from varied region, somebody from Manipur, somebody from Kashmir, some from down south, somebody from middle India, North India, Gujarat, lot many people are there. They all speak their own languages. They all speak their own language. So they say that another world is possible because you're not happy with this world. That's why you are there on Jantar Mantar to protest and to see that someday the life will be better. That protest is going on. Now, this video maker, documentary maker, they say that to other people that when we put a camera on, you just have to say that another world is possible in your language. In your language, you have to see this. So they are making that idea that how in Indian languages, everybody is speaking about that. What is the purpose of that? What is the symbolic significance? That with all this diversity and other things, harmonious existence is possible. And harmonious existence itself is Jannat. Jannat means with all those kinds of differences, people live together happily. That is, and that Jannat we have to make. It is not going to be given to us without any attempts, without any movements, or without any struggle. So that is Anjum is making that Jannat where everybody is invited, everybody and everything. So even there are very interesting animal world around there. There is a very interesting vegetation world around them. There is vegetation. There is a garden. They are growing vegetable. There are so many birds, insects, and animals living there together. There and human beings are also living there. So that is the Jannat, that Jannat graveyard or Jannat guest house, which turns as that becomes there. So that is the nature of paradise or heaven that Arundhati Roy is telling. So there is nothing after life. It is here that we have to make a kind of a happy existence, and we have to have harmonious existence with each other in that sense. Okay, so the next one, any question in between, do not hesitate to ask, or if you want to add something in between, then also you can ask that. Okay, so the next point is about, will be the next one, the importance of ambiguity and diversity. Okay? Bhavyang will be the case.
Second thing is about the importance of ambiguity and diversity. So the Ministry of Utmost Happiness is that of internal division, whether within nation and movement. The example of latter comes in Roy's depiction of Anjum and her fellow Hijra as a biological male individual who feel particularly of full female. This reason also experience the masculinizing effect of poverty as her body backward on her, and although surgery and hormonal uh, therapy elevate same of what Western medicine would call gender dysphoria. She can never have the precise body she desired. It symbolizes her harmonically changed voice. It sometimes sounds like two voices quarreling with each other instead of one.
Yes, so ambiguity and diversity, and the ambiguous existence is symbolically present in Anjum, Aftab Anjum, the existence of the intersex person. Anjum's case is symbolically represented in that. And there is an external tension outside among the people, and they all have their own truths about the things. Because diversity is a very interesting idea, but to live with diversity is not that easy. We know, like for example, we know that we have a specific way of looking at food idea, the food. And normally Gujaratis do not like people eating non-vegetarian food. Normal Gujarati, if you will consider, then they will have some problem. And they will not even be able to, by and large, many of them will not be able to live with diversity of food habits with everybody. They will time and again keep on raising the question that this is bad, this is wrong, this is that kind of a thing. Keep on coming in various way. Also, even if we see at this example, though we know that well, people have their habits of eating foods in variety of ways, but still to live with that. So, for example, if there is a non-vegetarian person, and if you go with that person out for some lunch or a dinner, and to respect your, that is vegetarian person's sense of food habit, will prefer to eat the non-vegetarian or vegetarian food, and will not order for that, and will easily adjust with another person. Now, if there is a one person who is a vegetarian and other five people are non-vegetarian, and if they order non-vegetarian food, then that one person might have a problem. Will perhaps go on a different table. Will try to make a snob. Will have variety of things also. So this person who is a vegetarian will find it more difficult to adjust with a non-vegetarian, whereas the non-vegetarian won't have any problem to adjust with this person. Another rather crude example, if we give, that normally everybody have their gods and goddesses, and all the rituals around gods and goddesses are about offering something to God which is eatable, and which we call prasad in different way. So if I have a Satyanarayan Katha, and I offer a kind of a zero to my God, and then if there is anybody coming from any part of the world, they come, they will readily take prasad. But if there is a Eid festival going on, and if I am somewhere around a Muslim community and they are offering their prasadi and say that, well, let have a prasadi, then I will have a problem. Now, so this is that problem of diversity, that how people would easily still take that as a prasadi, and that will not remain. Here you will say this is prasadi and you can, everybody should respect, but will everybody still respect the diversity in that sense, or what kind of problems people may have? Or the same way you can say Christians would have wine because their God, and wine is offered to the God also. So then maybe the other people will have a different, like if it's a Muslim and then this prasadi is wine, will say that, well, in our religion it is denied, so you will perhaps not accept that. So living with diversity is not that easy task. When we are tested or tried, at that time to stand for that becomes very, very complex kind of a thing there. So Arundhati Roy brings a different world of ambiguous identity and diversity, and to adjust with all these people in different way obviously becomes very challenging, which she brings here. Okay, in case you have any doubt or question, do not hesitate to ask, so we can throw more light on that. If the theme is clear, then it is okay. We quickly move on to the another point. Okay, so the third point is the cost of modernization by Nidhi. Yes.
So the cost of modernization is the next theme. The Ministry of Utmost Happiness spends several decades, and though not in a chronological order. The bulk of the story's action, however, take place in the last year of the 20th century and the first year of the 21st century, and is set against a
Okay.
yeah now. The bulk of the story's action, however, takes place in the last year of the 20th century and the first year of the 21st century, and is set against a background of a rapid modernization. In a practice, this often means a westernization, as in this description, the summer of a renewal. And namaste, people said in an exotic accent and smiled like the turned doorman with a Maharaja mustaches who greeted a foreign guest in a five-star hotel. The world rose to its feet, roaring its appreciation, and skyscrapers and steel factories sprang up where the factories used to be, and rivers were bottled and sold in a supermarket. Fish were tined and mountains minded and turned into a shining missiles. And massive dams light up cities like a Christmas tree, and everyone was happy to read to this.
Okay, so costs of modernization, or rather the word we can say is progress or development, as the more popular word we use here is about development. So, what is this cost of development or progress? That is material progress, development, uh, and how it is paid by whom? Who are the people who have to pay this cost? That is what I tries to say. Uh, Arundhati Roy herself is a kind of an activist, also activist in terms of questioning the idea of sustainable development, which stands that all kinds of development will be at some cost. You can't have both the things there. Somewhere something or somebody will have to pay the price for the benefits or advantages that we want in different way. We all go back in forest and start living like a caveman. That also is a reality. So when sometimes in an extreme form people go against the idea about urbanization or modernity or industrialization or making big roads or dams or other thing, sometimes we feel that we require some rationality to think about it. Somewhere a balance is required. Somewhere a vivek buddhi is required for to understand this also, because without that is not going to support the human life and the facilities that we want to give to human beings also. So it is not, the point is not going against modernity or development or not making a broader roads or express highways or not going for bullet trains or advancement of industry and technology, not completely against that. But in that race of going for expansion of roads or building huge dams or whatever way we realize our spaces, geography, who is paying ultimate cost? That point is very important, which needs to be addressed also. Who ultimately will have to pay that cost of that also? There is the point of land reform movement going on here. Again, that is the story which we have not touched upon in our larger narration. As we have said that there are many other things which are not touched upon. This also is a point. So this old Gandhian fellow representation of Anna Hazare, whose 2011 movement was going on in New Delhi. That was obviously against a land grabbing act, or you can say land acquisition act. Grabbing and acquisition are different thing. Grabbing means પડાવી લેવું કોઈનું, અને acquisition એટલે officially તમે એને acquire કરો છો. So government requires land for expansion. So in Saurashtra right now, for example, we live in Bhavnagar here, and from Bhavnagar to Somnath there is the coastal express highway under construction. And it is a 6-lane express highway, a coastal express highway connecting Somnath from this place. And the road conditions are really bad, and there is a need for a good road facilities for the coastal people to get connected also. But when that process is going on, we see that there is a fertile land, and that fertile land is taken by the road authorities. There are so many trees which has to be felled off. There are so many people living. Forget about only the land and the trees, but there are so many people, villagers living there, and their land also will be taken. Now, if for those villagers land was the only source of their income, then even if you give them another thing, then generations won't sustain on the job of one person. Generations sustain if you have a land of your own. So one after another generations, but on the job one person, then the other generation will have to struggle their own way out. They have to study, they have to pass various exams, and then only they will get into the service. Whereas in farming, if your fathers have or your parents have land, automatically it will come, but job will not come automatically. So there will be somewhere a heavy price, or suddenly the entire profession will change. Farmers will no longer remain farmers. They will have to start changing their life habits in different way also. So is this cost paid by poor families only, or is that shared with everybody? Are the rich people who are going to use those roads for their Mercedes cars. Gopal, who purchased Mercedes in Revolution 2020. Our Gopal also has purchased the Mercedes now, which is again the talk of the town now. But Mercedes is that symbol of some kind of corruption in Revolution 2020. And when we were discussing, we had not thought that this Mercedes will become so real within a week that we will better understand the symbolism in Mercedes car than what we were seeing there. But well, who will drive on that road? Those people who are still on cycle or not even on the cycle, whose land is taken for the road, they perhaps will never have a chance also to journey on that road. Also, even if they will go to Somnath, they will walk. They will have to walk, and people will not allow them to walk on express highways because then they will meet with an accident. So they can't walk on the express highways. You have to walk on the another track also. So who ultimately, or when the dams are built, lots of land is grabbed. I think last year in post-colonial studies we have discussed this idea. So you can easily connect with all those points also when you talk about this. The question can be in your mind that, well, all those things are there, but here what? Here in this novel, what? So here one point is, Anna Hazare movement is going on against that land acquisition rule, the new rule. This was passed in Uttar Pradesh state, and against that this movement was going. That it was giving free right to government to grab anybody's land. If government just proves that, well, this land is required for national development, then the owner will have no right, will have to sell that land to government by any way. So that was, it became a rule. Now, once it becomes a rule passed in parliament, legislation, and then even if you go in court will say that this is a rule. Is government following the rule? Yes, then you have to give your land. Ultimately, we all live for our nation. And if you have to give a piece of land for the nation, then what's wrong in that? Look at our Sainiks in Siachen. They are giving their lives for land, for Mother India. You can't give a piece of land for Mother India. That is what people will tell. But then person may question that why only I? Why only I have to give a piece of land? Why not the other? But that is another story. So when you give this right to government to take anybody's land for national development, then there is agitation going on. And that is the background here that we see. All these people, another very interesting case of this is this, that these people are living in a graveyard. Graveyard is not their land. It is a place where the family members of Anjum are buried. So you can say for hundreds of years, our family members are buried in this graveyard. Now, that doesn't mean that you have an ownership of that graveyard. And you can say that now I will make a mall here, or I will make a private engineering college here. You can't, because it is a community center and it is for everybody. Your family members are buried, but you do not own that land as such. But still Anjum goes and starts staying on that illegally. She is staying there. And then not only that, she starts building constructions. One room, second room, third room. And then not only one, but so many people start staying there. And even cows are now coming there to stay. Cows are also the regular visitors. They would sit there. They would pass their time there. They will get something to eat also and other thing. So there is an episode where people are saying that, well, be careful about these cows. If these cows will die only accidentally, then also you will be in problem. That is the concern, that if the cow will die near your place, then there are chances that the person may come into a problem. So the other animals are fine, but cow is something highly problematic there. But well, they all stay there, and government people do come to question that are you paying taxes, house rent tax, house tax, or water connection tax? Lots of taxes we all pay. You know that any property, it is taxable, and we have to annually pay taxes to municipal corporations for that. But then they bribe some people. Some people, they come, they are bribed, and then they go, they let go the thing that is going on there. So in a way, they have also grabbed the land, which was not there, and then they have made a jannat around them. They have made a jannat around them. One day, the bulldozers of Delhi Municipal Corporation will come, and they are going to destroy this guest house. It is going to happen, and they all will be on the road. One day that is going to happen. It is not happening in the novel, but someday that will happen because you are there. And what cost you will have to pay? That is the cost of modernity, modernizing. You want to modernize the city, and then you will remove so many poor people from modernization of the city spaces also. As a part of a study, you can just roam around Bhavnagar and try to see where are the slum dwellers, where are this kind of people, slum dwellers, where do they stay? And then do they keep on staying there, or the time comes where they have to move out of that place and find another space? Why that happens whenever they have to move? Why that happens? And you will always find that there is this point of modernizing city. You want to make a joggers park for Bhavnagaris because Bhavnagaris want to walk early in the morning. But who was staying there where the joggers park was there? It was an old railway track. Old railway track when there was a train moving from Bhavnagar to Mahua. That old railway track was there, and normally the railway track and old stations are the homes of the people who are homeless. Homeless people. They would stay there. Now, this homeless people will be thrown off. And what we will get? We will get a beautified space in our city. And we'll be very happy to see that our city is getting modernized. It is getting beautiful. What is the cost of that? Human lives somewhere are dislocated, displaced in that process also. So that becomes interesting to see here. Okay, coming to the next theme, the boundaries between death and life. Yes, Riddhi. Riddhi? Yeah, okay, yes, yeah, okay.
Yes, the boundaries between death and life. Roy's interest in the relationship between life and death overlaps with several other major themes in the Ministry of Utmost Happiness. The uncertainty of the boundaries between the two is another form of the ambiguity the novel celebrates, and the idea of paradise is intertwined with the idea about death in the afterlife. Questions of life and death are also significant, with the novel frequently suggesting that the two are not the opposites reader might expect them to be.
Okay. So, yeah. Okay, so I think that point is very clear. The boundaries between death and life, Jannat idea, paradise idea, and that also we have discussed there. Okay? Question of life and death are also significant, with the novel frequently suggesting that the two are not the opposite. Readers might expect them to be, but they are integral part. They are like two sides of a coin or a multifaceted life where life and death is an integral part. People do die so many times in one life. It is not that we only die once or we only live once. In this perspective, life is like a diamond. Diamond is multi-dimensional. Multi-dimensional diamond. I think we use this diamond metaphor earlier to understand prejudice and biases, our hidden prejudices, our hidden biases. So life is not only having two perspective or three perspective. It is like a diamond which has multiple perspectives there. So in a life, people do live so many times and they die so many times. We are living dead, and we are living and then dead people, or sometimes we die to live forever. So the people like Revti or Musa, they die but they live forever. They die and they are buried somewhere in their land, either in the forest of Bastar or in the valley of Kashmir. But then they are buried again in the graveyard also. Some part of their life is also buried here. There is second burial of so many people in this novel. Again, another story which we have not discussed earlier. The another part that there are second burial ceremony of so many people. Tilotama's mother is again undergoing a burial process in graveyard. Revti, that is Jeben, our new Zeben, Udaya Zeben's mother is also undergoing the another process. Saddam, I think we should touch upon this character. We can just move this here so you can see these characters in my voice. Okay. So Saddam's character, and what was that? His father. His father was lynched, and there was a cow again in Haryana. So there is that happening there. Then obviously family members of Anjum are there in that, and where we come here, I think. So here we have this Revati episode and this character. Yes. So Revati, mother of Udaya Zebin and Musa, a character there. Tilottama's mother, Mariam Ipi. Yeah. So that all are also buried again there. Now, see, this is a very interesting idea. Though we have a kind of a superstition around the burial ceremonies, and we do remember the people who are dead occasionally in life, and we have rituals around those things also to remember these people. Now, in that also, here the same thing as such. It seems to be a little bit superstitious in that context also, if we see. But well, normally what we have this word is Pitru Tarpan. Pitru Tarpan is what we do, and we say that, well, it is for the some kind of blissful happiness of the dead one, for their soul we do. Well, actually it is not for them. Actually it is for us, the living people. So all these living people, they have to do that for their own sukun, for their own bliss, for their own peace. They have to do that second birth, because they themselves are having some kind of anxieties about how the people are dead or what happened to them, and that anxiety is there. And so it is not for their soul, it is for the living people's soul. So this is where this lines between living people, dead people blurs in that context also. Okay, so let us see the next one. Yes, how and why stories are told. Yes, Daya.
Yes, the next thing is how and why stories are told. The Ministry of Utmost Happiness breaks many narrative conventions. It jumps backward and forwards in time seemingly at random. It blends third and first person storytelling. It drops major character for hundreds of pages at a time, and it frequently makes use of documents ranging from police files to advertisements to private journals. This experimental structure is in and of itself an indication of how central the idea of storytelling is to the novel, since it implies that some kinds of stories can only be told in this fragmented and non-chronological way. These are the shattered stories Ilo alludes to in the last chapter, stories about people and things that are so broken that they can't be made of fit into a typical, straightforward plot line. And so we can use the quotation that we have discussed in last lecture, that how to tell shattered story by slowly becoming everybody, no, by slowly becoming everything.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, that is a good. The final quote that we have seen is very important to see here, because there is a textual evidence to. So whenever we see the theme, we have to go for the textual evidence about all the theme, or one or two illustrations from the text is very, very important or necessary also. So we're trying to see this. If we can also see it here again. The structure in which it is coming in the novel, the quote which comes as such in this way in the novel. Yes, so this is what it says here. How to tell a shattered story by slowly becoming everybody? No, by slowly becoming everything. So that is that structure itself, that you try to make some lines, but then you don't know whether is this a proper staircase. Will you be able to climb this staircase and reach to or a story which you want to tell, ultimately at the end, will that story mean anything or not? That all becomes significant in this. But at the same time, we also remember that in literature it is said that what and how should sync with each other. The way we want to tell a story, that is, what is the story and how do we tell that story? There's two important questions: that what is the story and how the story is told. This two should obviously match with each other. Both this thing should be in sync with each other. Now, if I want to tell a story about brokenness or about nothingness, but my story is not broken, my story is not having that sense of nothingness, then perhaps my literature will not be considered as a classic or something that people value as a work of art. We have seen this in context of modernist literature, postmodernist literature. When we were discussing the Westland, we have seen that the basic theme of the Westland is nothingness. And that is what, when you read a poem, you do not find anything in the poem. It seems like it is about nothing. There is no sense at all. It is a senseless mumbo jumbo of variety of images presented in variety of languages. So many languages from Europe to Sanskrit language come in, and it means nothing as such. So why? So because that nothingness was the theme of the modern life. After First World War, most of the thinkers and philosophers talk about nothingness in life. The life was meaningless, and so you have to tell a poem which is just a kind of images, and it doesn't seem to get connected anywhere unless we read those footnotes and endnotes and what are the meanings of the sentences and what Eliot wants to say. And when we refer to those, then we get, okay, this is what it tries to say about sexual perversion and spiritual degradation. Then otherwise it doesn't mean anything as such there. When we are discussing absurd play, an absurd play also we're talking about something is broken in life. Absurdity that comes from the musical tune. Your musical tune is broken, and you use the word absurd. So in your life, the lie of life, the rhythm of the life is broken now. You are still living. Something is happening. Some sound is coming. It is not that you are soundless or nothing is happening to you. You are not dead yet. So your strings are giving some kind of murmuring sounds yet. But it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't have any sense at all. So Vladimir Estragon, they would stand somewhere, they would see it, they will question, they will do this, they will do that. But ultimately, why are they waiting? For whom? They don't know whether the Godot will come or not. And is it that place where he is going to come or not? So in that, only that way, the way Beckett is writing, that play can be said. So how and what is in very good sync with each other. And so here, when we come to Arundhati Roy, her story is completely achronological. There is no chronology at all. Suddenly you are here in a moment, present moment, and suddenly you go way back to where Ramayana was. Or suddenly from there you go to Genghis Khan. And from suddenly there you suddenly come in the today's moment, what is happening today in Jantar Mantar. Suddenly you open a television and you see that, well, this is going on here. So right, and then you think of future suddenly. That what will be the future if this is how it goes on. So each and every paragraph keeps on shifting from one sense of time to another sense of time. But it is not only that, all the stories are so complex that, and the way they are told also is full of complexities. No story ends at one sequence. Something is hanging left, and you keep on reading and you are tired of reading, and you skip 2 pages and maybe 2 or 3 stories are told there. And so you don't know that, oh, this story is told there. And then you thought that it was hanging only. It was not hanging, it was concluded. But while you were reading, you were not conscious at that time, or your mind was somewhere else in another story. So that story is concluded there. So every new reading gives us that, okay, this was left out, that was left out. this character was left out. That is something that people feel constantly here. So, Arundhati Roy is talking about a life, or according to her vision, the contemporary Indian scene is a shattered scene. There are lots of problems. And by and large, the people's attention is engaged with something else than those problems. And so she feels that idea about a shattered image of the present time. And that is how it is presented in this story also. So, how and why stories are told also. Why is a very interesting question. Why? Now, why doesn't mean that you have to tell people that's why only. It is obviously the answer that you want to communicate. So you tell a story. But this kind of stories, people will say that by writing this, who will read Arundhati Roy? You suggest somebody that read Arundhati Roy, and they will not even reach to the 10th page. They will leave that book. That give me something where there is interesting story. I want to entertain myself. Now, this book is not going to entertain you. It is going to take a very tough test about your passions, about your way, your love for literature. Everything will be tested, and most of us will fail also in the test of passing the thing. So this is not that book which will reach to so many people. So many people are not going to read this book. It is better to tell a story the way Chetan Bhagat tells a story, if you want to reach to so many people. So why is not only to reach people, but why is for the self. Okay, for, like we have said, that you have to do second burial of the dead people, not for their soul, but for your soul. તમારી બેચેનીને શાંત કરવા તમારે એ વિધિ કરવી પડે છે. તો અહીંયા પણ એ કે તમારી બેચેની દૂર કરવા માટે વાર્તા કહેવી પડે. કે ચલો, લેટ મી ટેલ અ સ્ટોરી, વોટ એવર. હું મારી અંદરની અગ્નિ તો બહાર કાઢી નાખું, પછી જે થાય તે. So it is for the self that the stories are told many a times, that you need to tell. You can't live with this story inside yourself. It is burning you from inside. T.S. Eliot used the word for poetry. It is acid. He said it is acid. It is H2SO4. So this poetry is not something that is beautiful, lovely, like Wordsworthian rainbow or a cloud or a daffodil. It is not that, or a butterfly. That it is not that. It is acidic, and if you will keep inside, it is going to burn you from inside. You have to vomit that acid out. Some people connected this writing poetry with giving birth like a mother to the child, and that also is a terribly painful process. And you will have to give birth. You can't keep the child inside you. You will die, and the child also will die. It is like that. So why is this? That even if the metaphor of being a mother, writers are mothers and they give birth to their little ones, and so many writers, when they are asked that which is your best work, they say that all the work. So you can't ask a mother and say કે અમારે તમારો ચહેતું બાળક કયું, માતા માટે બધા સરખા હોય. The same way for writers, all works are equally good. That metaphor is. But can you keep your child inside your body? What happens? It becomes poison. It kills the body. Both can die in that. So you have to give birth. You have acid. You have to vomit it out for your own existence. That is necessary. So that is why part of stories there. Okay, the next one is yes, here social status in contemporary India. Chandani.
Theme of social status in contemporary India. The Ministry of Utmost Happiness provides readers with a panoramic view of life in contemporary India, touching on everything from the status of hijras to the gentrification of major cities of Kashmiri separatism. These topics, however, aren't as dissimilar as they might appear at first glance. Besides, in many cases, intersecting with Roy's criticism of modern capitalism, each issue has as its heart a concern for the marginalized and forgotten.
Okay, so okay, so well, social status, now not a difficult topic to understand, that we have dealt with social status in all sorts of literature, whether it is African or American or European or Indian. Everywhere social status has its own way, the dynamics to play, and that happens here also. how people coming from the deep forest of Bastar, those who are Maoist, how they are seen, what is their status? Or somebody coming from the Kashmir and who has a sympathy for Kashmir insurgency, and what kind of status do they have in a society, or how do we see those things? Obviously, a common Indian person will have a different way of looking at all these identities and their status and other things also. I do remember that last time when I went to Jammu, and there is a university, Jammu also, and Srinagar also. So when you go there, you are introduced in a way like meet so and so person. He is coming from India. So you are surprised that are you out of India? That you are introduced as if you are coming from India. Within India, you say you are coming from which state? Within a state, you say he is coming from so and so district. So you go to Jammu Kashmir and you suddenly are shocked with that language, that they say that you are coming from India. So well, in their consciousness, many people feel that they are actually not a part of India, which is a very problematic status for many Indians also. And even for those people also, it is highly problematic status. So even if I am a Kashmiri and if I have to make those choices about that whether I am happy living alone or should I go with Pakistan or China or India, perhaps the better alternative is always to go with India. Better chances are always there for the entire nation is open for your jobs, for your study, your children can move on, your future life can be far better comparatively than you think of the China, which is a very closed state with all kind of development story of China. Still, people will not be happy living in China with the government that has lots of control over human life. People won't be happy. Ultimately, we want to be free beings. Pakistan obviously is not that rich enough country like India also, or they still have to make a story of their own if they have to become a successful state or a nation in any capacity. Whereas India is always a better alternative, given a condition. And all alone you can't live because you may be attacked by anybody and you don't have your army to defend. Who is going to defend you if you remain independent? And if you go for an army, then where is the money? Who is going to give you arms and ammunition? Now you don't fight riding on a horse or with talwar baji. You can't do that. People will drop a bomb from air, and then nothing is left there. So without those high technologically high missile and ballistic missiles, you can't, and that is not possible for the Kashmiris in a given condition there. But well, we are not Kashmiris, so what we think is not what they think. Their way of looking is completely different in a given. But that social status or that way of looking is very harmful to either of the identities there. Now, going beyond this disturbed areas, if we look at the mainstream area, then capitalism, that how the story of progress makes for the status symbol. And as we have seen earlier also in capitalism, that we are turned into a consumer. We are not either of this gender or that gender. We are not of this caste or that caste. In this society, it doesn't matter whether from which caste you come or whether you are a man or a woman. What matters is, do you have a money or not? Are you a good purchaser or not? Are you a good customer or not? શું તમારી પાસે ક્રેડિટ કાર્ડ છે, બેંક બેલેન્સ છે, તમે ઈચ્છા પડે ત્યારે વસ્તુ લઈ શકો, વાપરી શકો, દર વર્ષે બે વર્ષે નવા નવા મોબાઈલ લાખ લાખ રૂપિયાના લેતા રહો, કાર બદલતા રહો, BMW માંથી મર્સિડીઝ તરફ તમારી ગતિ થતી રહે, then you are a good. Then people don't look at your caste of the thing. That is capitalism, that you should be good in purchasing, you should be a good consumer. That is the thing. So you are doing that, you are given a status. People will see that which car you are driving. They will not see that how you own the car. That people are not going to ask. But your car matters. If you come in a big Innova car, then 5 people will look at you. If you come in a Fronty, that is 800 Maruti car, then lesser people will be having. Forget about whether you are on a cycle or a bike. You can do cycling, but after having a car, then cycling becomes another status. After you have a car, પછી કારની બાજુમાં સાયકલ રાખીને ફોટો પડાવો કે તમે સાયકલિંગ કરવા જાઓ છો, તો એક અલગ સ્ટેટસ તમને મળે. The society will respect you in a different way there. So that is how the social statuses in societies are being seen in different capacity also. So very interestingly, all those points also comes here in this novel. Okay, next point is corruption, political violence, and capitalism. Bhumika. Yes.
The Ministry of Utmost Happiness paints a portrait of contemporary post-colonial Indian politics. Roy highlights the corruption in all political groups involved: the Indian Army, Indian leftists who oppose the corrupt occupation of Kashmir, and the Kashmiri locals and militants who apparently Roy ultimately sheds light on the ways in which corrupt capitalism undermines the supposedly moral intentions of the groups involved in Kashmir conflict. Additionally, Indian officials are prone to killing innocent Kashmiris and pretending they are dangerous terrorists uh, because they are devoted to this. Uh, Through Roy's characterization of Latta, corrupt journalist who allegedly reports on the human rights abuses, she also criticizes the Indian left. Finally, although Roy is not as extensively critical of corrupt Kashmiris as she is of characters from mainland India, she does make sure not to exempt them from criticism of corruption. By casting all groups involved as corrupt, Roy avoids aligning herself with any particular ideology.
Okay. In detail, we have quite a long paragraph of this. Earlier themes that we have seen up till here, we have given a link that go to this site to read in detail more illustrations. But that also you will find in the material. There is this another link, restricted access to department students. There you will find in detail all these things where you don't have to go, because this is a paid site and it is asking for money for this. So here you will find that material. So we have purchased that material. It is of good quality material. So we have purchased, but as it is a copyright and they have not allowed to make it publicly available for everybody. So we are not putting it publicly available for everybody, but only those who are the students, for them only. So you don't also share it openly. Whatever the material is here restricted to students, it is copyright material. So it should not be made available through any other digital platform with everybody openly there. But there you will find details of this. And here other material we have seen put here is given thoroughly there. So one very interesting point, though we have seen about corruption, political violence, and capitalism earlier also, but one interesting point that comes is that while you are portraying corrupt people, then one observation that many critics have made, that Arundhati Roy seems to be more sympathetic towards Kashmiris or towards the Maoist people, and their corruption is not highlighted a lot. So if you don't know the history of Kashmir insurgency in 1990s, or about the Maoist and the Naxalite movement and how violent they are, even on their own poor people, and the atrocities that are done, and the abuse of the women that is done even by their own people. If we are not aware about that story, then we may think that these are very good people, innocent good people, and the problem only is on the other side, that is on the side of security personnel, Indian army only. So one should avoid those kinds of one-sided way of looking. We can see that Arundhati Roy is an activist, and she is very openly against American capitalism or anything that goes along with Americanization, which is another word for modernization. With that, anything that happens is always being objected by her. In her non-fictional writing, very openly she had taken that stance also. But as a literature, one should have a balance. As an individual, you may be whatever, but when you write a literature, you have to put the sides properly. You can't just put everything, this is black, this is white. That will obviously decrease the value of literature. So to try to balance the thing, though Kashmiris are not displayed in a very critical way, but still she writes that Kashmiris are also now businessmen. And in a peace process, like any businessman, these Kashmiris are also doing the thing. So the corruption that Kashmiris do, or even the militant organizations do, that is there. It is not completely absent, and is putting that many of these people they also have their own vested interest, and they are using young people. Young Kashmiris are used by the militant groups or Pakistan supported groups are also involved. So the reference is coming there, and the Kashmiris are like businessmen, and they would put anything at a stake for the purpose of the business. We all know that Kashmir is a place where there are so many holy shrines of Hindus. Kedarnath and other places, holy shrines of Hindus are there. And lot many Hindus throughout India keep on visiting Kashmir for that. Time and again they go, even up till Mansarovar, which is in under Chinese government. So people keep on visiting there. And when people travel, they obviously will spend lots of money. So these people who are living in valley around these holy shrines, their source of income is pilgrimage. Pilgrimage. So this even all this uh, yatras that are done in Kashmir, they are always as a part of pilgrimage. So if you will keep on having a narration which is anti-Hindu or against Hindu religion, then lesser and lesser people will come. And who will be ultimately at loss? It will be Kashmiris who will be at loss when people will stop coming, and they economically their condition will be very bad also in that context there. So that those things also are necessary to be put into a wider perspective, where we find that Arundhati Roy has not given ample space to those things there. The other things we have seen, political violence and other things that go through. Okay, next point is resilience and hope.
Like the Ministry of Almost Ethnic saying on the whole a relatively bleak portrait of politics and violence in modern India, resilience and hope among the characters is an important trait throughout the work. In the novel, Roy addresses social inequalities, political corruption, and a great deal of violence through the points of view of various characters. However, she also highlights the history of hope and resistance in India and the characters' resilience in the face of contemporary political oppression. In doing so, Roy suggests that hope is the most important source of empowerment for those facing oppression, and suggests that although the characters may not see the immediate effects of their resistance or resilience, these powerful forces are ultimately capable of fighting oppression. Roy also subtly celebrates the resilience of the non-corrupt civilian members of the Kashmiri resistance. In her descriptions of Kashmiri conflict, Roy draws much attention to the dead bodies of both innocent citizens and members of the militia, highlighting how Kashmiris go out to give their dead proper burials in spite of the threat of military attacks. This act of courage alone demonstrates the resilience of the Kashmiri people. In one moment, the sister of a murdered, innocent young man describes how, when her brother's body was brought home, his fists clinched in rigor mortis were full of earth and yellow mustard flowers grew from between his fingers. In this moment, the juxtaposition of rigor mortis and the mustard flowers is a metaphor for home. Although rigor mortis implies the rigidity and apparent permanence of death, the mustard flowers represents new life born of and nourished by death. In other words, death is not permanent and since it serves to create new life. This image suggests the inevitability of life continuing in the face of violence. Roy infuses the description of the dead body with the possibility of hope for a better future. The story of Miss Udaya Seven is particularly important because it is on this note that Roy ends the narrative. In the last passage of the novel, Duke Cheong, the young beetle, is carried away and on duty, lying on his back to save the world in case the heavens fell. But even he knew that things would turn out all right in the end. They would, because they had to, because Miss Udaya Seven was come. Here, Ron makes it clear that the baby symbolizes hope and survival in spite of the threats of enormous violence. The fact that this message is told from the perspective of young people further things as young beetles sustain their own lives by feeding on the waste of other animals. They represent the turning of one cycle into another. By ending the story on a hopeful note, Roy draws readers' attention to the importance of the character's resilience throughout the novel, implying that their strength and continued resistance will eventually allow them to achieve a more peaceful future.
Okay, so this is a very interesting theme, resilience and hope, and I don't think there is any discussion required for this. We understand resilience means to fight in adverse condition, and we have very popular stories of the people who had stood against various kinds of resilience, and uh, who was this? The lady whose legs were cut down in a train accident, and then she became a climber. You remember that story of, where was it? Arunima Sinha, yes, Arunima Sinha's story. And so these are the stories of resilience that, and many stories we find of people who in real life had a near death experience in various capacities or lots of failures in life, and then they have bounced back in different way. So that is resilience, and which is the something that is a very interesting mark of human beings or a life on this earth. Everybody displays some kind of resilience and the ability to bounce back from utterly bad situation also, and that is where our hope lies. So when we talk about contemporary scene, in any time you go back to any of the time, and people will always have some grudges or some problems with the given time. And but then we say that that was 200 years back, that was 300 years back, and then you have moved on, so it means that moving on is a hope. We will keep on moving with all these kinds of adverse situations that is around there. We will still keep on moving, we will move on, and we will keep on fighting with those things which is necessary there. We just have to keep our fight on. We have to just keep on fight on, and that is very hopeful dynamics that we can see there. So through a very interesting symbol, this hope is being presented, and that is dung beetle. One could never imagine that something like dung beetle can be a symbol of a hope for us in such a way. So novel ends very curiously with that idea that something that is so insignificant to us that we do not even care for their life or their living. We would have never imagined a life of the Kidas living in dung. Never ever we would have thought કે આમની પણ કોઈ આત્મકથા હોય, આમનું પણ કંઈ જીવન હોય. But when we watched that TED video, we found that, well, they have their own world of their own. There are beautiful films on ants' life. કીડીઓના જીવન ઉપર ફિલ્મો છે, ants ની, they're very interesting film. But on this beetles, there is no such thing there. But then it becomes significant to see there also. So that way of looking at dung beetle is something very interesting coming from this novel. But a hope is there in a little baby also, Udiya Jeben, who is there, and people hopefully look that, well, new generation is there. We have lived, we are moving on, and then these people, they will find the solution to the problems and other things there. So resilience and hope is also very interestingly presented. The novel is not a hopeless novel. One can't say that this is a very hopeless novel, though it has lots of problems about contemporary India. But still, the vision of Arundhati Roy is not hopeless. It has a hope that things will still turn out to be in a better way. Okay, next is gender identity, social division, and coexistence. Anjali, please.
Ministry of Advanced Studies is approached through the point of view of a transcendent humanity for informal sex. worker who was born intersex with both female and male genitalia. Her mother Anju a boy and named him Avtar. And he pronouns are used to refer to Avtar at the beginning of his life, before he start identifying as a trans woman. Through the Anjumais, readers have exposed to the various inequalities and form of violence that the city of which she lived. The Urdu word of the trans woman is hijra, and the identity that very important to Anjum is that the other trans woman she lived with. Through exploring that the way in which Anju navigates gender identity and by portraying her trans identity as a positive and the nuanced light. Roy challenges not only the idea of the gender binary but also the other artificial form of social division, particularly the nationality and the religion. Her identity as a hijra grants her a special social status that sometimes protest her. Every Muslim in area is massacred and expect for Anjum, who is separate became as one of the extremists observed the killing just bring but bad luck. In this instance, Anjum is a marginalized identity literally saves her life, although she suffers the discrimination in her society for being a hijra. Instances like this, the folklore surrounding hijra, that they are the holy soul trapped in bodies, protect her. One of the characters, the Nemo, another hijra with whom Anjum lives, relate that the experience of being hijra to conflict between the India and Pakistan, liking the gender binary of the violence, partition of the two countries. Before Aftab has moved into the Khabga and the brothel where he will live with other trans sex worker. He identifies the place, but Nemo, who ready to leave there, tells a young Aftab, no one happy here. The war is inside us. Indo-Pak is inside us. It will never settle down. Here, the Nemo equates the conflict between the two new countries with the perceived conflict between the masculine and the feminine gender that the occur in hijras. This analogy is interesting taken throughout the novel. The India-Pakistan conflict is portrayed as a sensitive violence, a war between the two peoples that have forgotten they were once a neighbor, who had been each other's wedding, who have by privileging its needless conflict with the perceived conflict between gender in hijras, then implies that perhaps just as an India and Pakistan not really separate from one another, the masculine and the feminine gender are not necessarily opposite, they are in conflict with each other. In the both of the above intentions, the Anjum lived experience defied the logic of the gender binary. The Anjum seems to embrace that the both gender lives within her. Indeed, she changes her gender and gender presentation several times of our course of the novel, demonstrating that although she does have the preference for feminine presentation, she is able to acknowledge and work with masculinity as inside her through presenting us and the character who defines that the gender binary role invites the reader. She passed not only the stacked artificial categories like the sacred masculine and the feminine, but also the extension those the separate Hindu from the Muslim, India from Pakistan. In way, the Anjum embodies that the concept of the coexistence by the allowing two gender considered to be the fundamentally opposite to consist with her. By characterizing this as a special and even scared identity, Roy demonstrates the power that comes from embarrassing different rather than the seeking to destroy it.
Okay, so highlights we have to read rather than everything. Uh, so the other students after this, those who are coming, if you also are planning to read entire paragraph, then you can think that what are the important aspects. Okay, but fine, a very interesting point. And again, character of Anjum helps us in understanding the idea about gender identity, social division, and also coexistence of this. So, if you want to teach people in today's time about diversity and coexistence, perhaps food will not be enough. We give time and again example of food because people have a different food habits, and then to survive with those things still is a problem. But again, it is not the only thing that people would think of. Today, perhaps the best example is this third gender identity. How do we accept third gender in our life as that is very challenging. We have accepted men and women. We still obviously struggle for women's existence, and equality of women is still not what way we will accept them as the individuals who can exist with us with whatever we do, with whatever kind of things we have. We have accepted that men and women will live in a different way, that men will dress in this way, women will dress in this way, men will have this hairstyle, women will have that hairstyle. So all those things we have accepted. Third gender will come with lot many things different. They will dress themselves in a different way. They will decorate themselves in a different way. Perhaps many times we don't use the word makeup for that decoration. And then will we accept that as a makeup? And will we accept their way of speaking, their way of walking, or any other thing that they have? Very, very challenging, very difficult. What we expect is that we will accept you, but you accept one of the identities, that either become a male or female. Make your mind whether you want to be a man or a woman. Then we will accept you either as this or that. But as a third gender, to coexist with them is very challenging. Very, even if whatever broader mindset we have, perhaps it is not easy to have this. Uh, in our societies, if a boy is moving around with another boy, we don't have a problem. A girl moving around with a girl is not a problem. Boy and a girl moving around, somewhere a problem, but still people will accept that. Okay, fine, this, but somewhere narrow spaces, some problems will be there, but still people in the cosmopolitan will not have a problem. But if you will be with any third gender, it is obviously going to raise eyebrows of so many people. Obviously, it will be questionable. If you have a good friend who is a third gender, he lives like a third gender openly, as we live as a man or a woman openly, then it is that problem still there. So that is that coexistence is still so difficult even to imagine in all those lived experiences. So through presenting us this character who defies gender binary, Roy invites reader to see past not only the strict artificial categories that separate masculine and feminine, but also by extension those that separate even Hindu, Muslim, India, Pakistan, and many such identities also. The problem that we have here is actually the problem everywhere also. We are not going to settle down well with all these identities in a given circumstances. So, in a way, Anjum embodies the concept of coexistence by allowing two genders considered to be fundamentally opposite coexist within her. By characterizing this as a special and even sacred identity, uh, you are making it a sacred identity. That is how that character is at the center of our narration. Okay, am I pavitrata hai? In that way, you are putting that character. What is that reference? That is that don't kill Hijra. Killing Hijra will bring ill omen. So that is that એમાં પવિત્રતા તમે આપી છે કે હિજડાને મારવાથી અપશુકન થશે. So that you have added. This Roy demonstrates the power that comes from embracing difference rather than seeking to destroy it. Embrace the difference, don't destroy the difference. Our normal tendency is this for coexistence is that I destroy the difference. Who am I? I am a powerful person. And whose things will be destroyed? Who is powerless? That's how we normally think, that the powerless will have to understand the sentiments of the powerful. and then coexistence is possible. Otherwise, it is not there. That is where the societies are pluralistic society rather than multicultural society. In multicultural society, everybody's way of living is respected. In pluralistic society, the majority's way of life is respected, and the minority will have to adjust with the way the majorities are doing the things. That is pluralistic one. So not to destroy, but to understand. That is perhaps the message that it tries to give us. Okay, to the next theme, social hierarchy versus social inclusivity. Yes, Niyati.
One of the one of the most salient aspects of contemporary Indian society that comes across in the history of utmost happiness is a rigid social hierarchy maintained principally by the caste system, but also operated by religious differences. While the conservative characters in the novel seek to uphold the hierarchy that privileges them, the oppressed and marginalized characters continue to fight for greater equality in the society. Biplab Dasgupta, the narrator of part of the novel and a Brahmin government official who works with the Russian conflict, serves to exemplify the elitism and the conservatism of India's Hindu upper classes. Dasgupta introduces himself as the upper class oppressor from every angle. For another was a leisurely man. Indian leaders seem to have no problem with the oppressive aspect of his job. He manipulates and uses neither leftist but corrupt journalists to cover up human rights abuses that occur in Kashmir. For instance, what's more, he never had the courage to tell the headstrong South Indian woman with whom he is infatuated that he likes her. In fact, the first thing he mentions about Theo is that she didn't look like any of the well-groomed girls he knew at college. Her complexion was what the French might call café in plate, with very little leg. His immediate noticing of Theo's skin color and important class maker in India. Biplab ends up unhappily marries another Brahmin woman named Chitra. This suggests that his reluctance to tell Theo about his feelings doesn't just stem from a childish fear of talking to a woman. Likely, his hesitance stems from an inability to step across the class lines that separate them. By contrast, Anju and the community she creates completely disregard social hierarchy and espouse radical inclusivity, which is what allows them to have such a loving, nurturing community. Funerals service would only bury those whom the graveyards and imams of the dunya had rejected. But positioning herself as marginal to the dunya or the real world, Anjum opens herself up to accepting all marginalized populations who have no other place to bury their dead with dignity. The name Anjum chooses for her funeral home is also significant. It is Jannat, which means paradise. The idea that paradise would be a shape in the middle of a graveyard, surrounded by additionally, at first is staggering, but it is through demonstrating the extent to which Anjum is able to build community surrounding that place that Roy may be able to convince reader that general funeral service may indeed be a kind of paradise.
Okay, so yes, you can keep this there. Okay. So it's very interesting way to understand this social hierarchy versus social inclusivity. Is Roy builds the idea that she tells a story from an angle where the mainstream dunya becomes an outside one. Dunya becomes an outside one. Normally, dunya is the mainstream one, and Khwabga is an outside one. Now you are changing the perspective. You have somebody who is voicing from inside Quagga. And whenever they talk about dunya as something on a margin. from that. So you are just shifting that centrality in a deconstructive thing that we were studying earlier. We were seeing things from the center and periphery. That was what we were seeing here. So now you are narrating from this periphery, where this dunya center becomes on a periphery. That is how the word dunya is referred, and it remains dunya only. It is not translated. The Urdu word dunya is not translated. It remains as it is only, and then you are changing that perspective to. So sometimes to teach a lesson of social inclusivity, you have to marginalize those people who are in the center of society. Then they feel that, well, what is it to be on the margin? And then that may be perhaps a better way to make people feel the idea about inclusivity also. So that is how perhaps this narrative is working here. Okay, so the next theme is about last one. The last thematic concern here is religion and power. Okay, yes, Latta.
Yes, the theme of religion and power. The Ministry of Utmost Happiness addresses a wide range of issues facing contemporary Indian society. Among these various struggles, one of the most pivotal or major is religion. Much of the violence that the characters observe and experience in the novel stems from conflict between Hindu and Muslim. Roy highlights the danger of allowing religious belief to seep into politics. By giving the example of Gujarat Latta, Roy described that politics and religion are almost inter inextricably intertwined. The blending of religion and government clearly allows for the continued violence against religious minorities in the country. Through portraying the extremism of religious affiliated political leadership among Hindus and Muslims alike, Roy highlights the danger of lack of separation between church and state causes to citizens safety and liberty.
Okay, so religion and power, how it is coming here. We have seen many times the connection. The normal idea is that church and the White House should always be separate. That is symbolically, and various memes are prepared about the church and the White House. So there is American symbolism there. The church, Christianity is the major religion, and so people try to make those memes that White House, which is democratically the place for the democratically elected president and who is going to rule there, should not get directly involved with the church, or those things should be separated. There should be a wall between church and White House. And that is what people take it at different part of the world, and they say that democratically elected power should always maintain a kind of a distance from found, because most of the people are always religious, and you have to go to the people for their votes to remain in the power, and you obviously are supposed to do what people will like more to do. And if there is anything against or anything, if you weigh down whether this or that, and if there is religion on one side and any other thing, large number of people will go for religion without closing, without opening their eyes, or with whatever way. Normally there is no alternative or option. Religion is always prominently selected thing by people. And if you want to time and again repeatedly come in the power by the votes of the people, who will not think of religion in a serious manner? Obviously anybody is going to give a very serious consideration to religion, because that is what is giving you power, by the votes of the people there. So people time and again were always telling that religion and power, that is this political power, or the whoever is the king or a queen in any form, in hierarchical order, should abstain from power, or people should think that, well, religion is a personal matter, it should be a home matter. We should all worship our religions in the homes, but it should never be displayed publicly. Religion is not supposed to be worn on our outside body or clothes when we are in a public space. It should be something about something that we do in our homes. That is how people see. That is Emma Dahapan Sheikh. There is a wisdom in that. That practice your religion at home, but when you come to the public space, then you flaunt rather all religion or non-secular or an atheist way of thinking or looking at the world also. That perhaps will give a better peaceful coexistence among everybody who all are connected with one or the other religions in different capacity. These all points we have time and again discussed several times, and we have seen that what are the dangers when people don't do those kinds of things. And those political leaders who were aware about this, they always were maintaining a distance, a safe distance. They all were maintaining there. Sometimes we live in a time where people are not now having that sensibility to maintain that distance. Now people are very openly people are now flaunting their own religion. Very openly they do the thing. So if there is a Muslim political leader, then he would keep a kind of a beard, mustache, or clothings which are highly having the Islamic connotations. The same way, if there is a Hindu politician, he also will flaunt all those markers, whether it is a tilak or chandan or janoi or dhoti or khes or whatever, we have lots of markers, and they will flaunt openly all those markers there. And if there is a Christian leader, and then come with a cross hanging outside, visible to everybody, kind of a thing. So, well, people obviously, those who get into this, they say that, well, these are not good signs. These people are there to fool the other people who are easily going to be duped in the name of religion, because religion obviously is such a kind of a thing where emotional susceptibility lies a lot, and it is proven from centuries that people will be very emotional when it comes about religion. And these markers will not allow the people to see a kind of what we call it, that this is a wolf beneath the skin of a sheep. People will not be able to see the wolf beneath the skin of a sheep. So that is the metaphor, no? That a wolf wants to eat the sheep, so would kill one sheep and will wear the skin and will roam with all the other sheep. So other sheep will think that this is a sheep. And બધાને એમ થાય અમારે જેવું ઘેંટું છે, એટલે એના ભેગું ચરે ને પછી ભૂખ લાગે ત્યારે કદાનો શિકાર કરે, પછી પાછી સ્કીન ઓઢી લે. So then it will be very difficult for the getas to identify that there is a wolf among us. That is will be very significant to be. That's why people say that, well, keep this aside. If you can't convince the leader, you convince the people. Well, leaders you won't be able to convince, so you go to people and you tell people that, well, keep your religion at your home. So here comes another backstory of one professor, Abdullah. Abdullah was a university professor, and he used to tell the Kashmiris that why don't you worship your homegrown saints and seers of local shrines. So there were many peers, local peers. Like Sarmad is a local peer, or Chitli Kabar is a local kabar of a goat. So if you want to worship, then worship local saints. તમારે ત્યાં થયેલા પીરની પૂજા કરો. It means that don't go for that religion that is coming from outside and telling that la ilaha illallah and Muhammad Paigambar is so and so. Don't do that. Worship what was your peer, your seer telling? Your તમારો સંત શું કહેતા હતા? Any shrine ને તમે પૂજા કરો, જો કરવી જ પડે તો. Be local rather than going. But then even these voices, these people were also killed by militants. The militants who are driven by that Islamic idea about who is this and what is that, and you have to do this, and the kafirs, and many such ideas that comes from the mainstream Islamic religion. It will not allow even for this, because someday you will say that you should not worship any idol. You should not worship any object. You are worshipping a shrine. So then somebody will get a reason to kill you. So even Abdullah, the professor of university, who was telling he also is killed by the militant group. So either on that side, that is Islamic terrorism and driven by the religion, or on the other side where there are saffron parakeets are there, and they are again driven in a different way, as a part of a reaction against the action. So if they do this, we will do this. If they will keep a beard without mustache, then we will have Chandan and Tilak. If they will have this, then we will have. So you are in a blind race where everybody is going to kill everybody. In that race, so nobody is learning good thing from each other. Instead, they all are in a race to prove that I am more religious than you. And if you are this, then I will be terrible. If you don't allow non-Muslims in Makkah, Medina, I will not allow you in Somnath Mandir. I will write there that non-Hindus are not allowed inside. So I will be like you. So that is the race. That is, we have started moving on, which is where one has to be very careful there. So portraying extremism of religiously affiliated political leadership among Hindus and Muslims alike, Roy highlights the danger of lack of separation between church and state, and it poses to citizens a threat to their safety and liberty. So all citizens' safety will be under threat when these things merge together there. And it is very difficult to see what kind of future lies ahead with such a kind of thing. But Roy presents that idea in a significant way. So that is religion and power that gets connected there. So these are our themes by and large. And let me give a break to recording, not a break to us, but let me give a break to recording before we very quickly come down to symbols and motifs. Very quickly, we will touch upon this topic there. So we will have a second part of today's recording in that.